Welcome. So another video talking about one of the most important things I believe right now is health, right? Again, this was sort of a nice thing to talk about prior to 2020. In my mind, this conversation is now necessary, right? Because in the past, health was more about, having higher quality of health and maybe even looking better, maybe even thinking better and feeling better. You all have your different wants and desires. But right now, a universal desire, a universal, I would think, want is to hopefully, if you get COVID, which it is coming, that you actually do well with it, right? Do well meaning you don't die, you don't have any permanent scarring of your lungs or brain damage and all the stuff that you're reading about online. One of the best ways is to optimize your health. And so from studying health for like 30 years, I have some things to share with you, right? So in case you don't know, degrees, I've looked at the science of health, right? Degrees in the mechanics of health, in the chemical aspect of health known as physiology, degrees in physical therapy, mechanically how to heal the body, but also looking at the energy and the mind aspect of health. And of course, being Asian, I was exposed to Chinese medicine. When I was young in Taiwan, when I had symptoms, I didn't go to a doctor for them to prescribe a medicine. They checked multiple pulses, they looked at my tongue, they looked at my skin, and they recommended a batch of herbs to brew and then drink. So that was what I was supposed to. I was also given acupuncture, right? So for aches and pains that I had. So I had this young, interesting journey of experiencing holistic medicine that came from Taoism. And so if we kind of study where Chinese medicine came from, the Taoists from 3000 BC, like 5,000 years ago, they were pretty obsessed with living a long time. And so in this video, I'm going to share with you three things, right? I'm a huge fan of combining sacred and science together. We're going to talk about three simple things, right? Literally, really simple things that you can do that will have an exponential, ungodly, indescribable, because I don't have all day to share with you all the science of it, effects on your health. Okay? And so let's just jump right into it. So the first one is simply a Taoist breathing technique. Right? So breath work is very popular right now, right? So we have Wim Hof, we have Dan Brule, who's like one of the grandmasters, and of course, lots of other experts. And I've looked into multiple types of breath work. And I find that, things that's been around for a long time, things that's been tested for thousands of years, tend to have a lot more oomph to it, right? It's like new age pizzazz, right? And so I will demonstrate what this breath work is and talk you through it. And then I'm hoping that you can actually practice with me on this video right now. It only takes, a minute to learn. The key is once you learn it, I'm hoping that you put it into practice. This is huge, right? And so typically breath work is just, you're breathing, and it's like there's oxygens, there's immune boosting, and all the typical physiological stuff. This is an interesting breath work that actually massages your insides. In other words, this breath work has a mechanical benefit as well as a chemical benefit. And if you apply a little bit of intent into it, then it has mind and spirit benefits, right? So depending upon your practice, I will go over definitely the mechanical and the physio or chemical benefit. If you're into the mind and spirit comment, I can then verbally talk you through. It's a little bit deeper level of practice. Okay, so let's just get started. So I'm gonna back up so you can see, stand in a way where I'm in camera. So essentially, you start off by diaphragmatic breathing, right? And so diaphragmatic breathing is basically stomach breathing, and I'll review what this is, right? So if I put my hand on my chest and a hand on my belly, and I inhale, my belly moves, and this hand doesn't move, your chest doesn't move, right? So you start off, the first part of it is diaphragmatic breathing. When you inhale, you relax your diaphragm, which goes down, right? Goes down and actually massages and puts pressure into your organs, right? You inhale, and then once your belly is full, then step two is you inhale enough where your chest is starting to rise. In other words, the air fills your stomach first, and then it fills your chest. And once it's starting to fill your chest a good amount, now you're going to, this right sounds a little strange, but now you're going to contract your anus muscles, right, your butt muscles, as if you're trying not to poop. right? So you're going to squeeze like your muscles as you're holding in poop. Again, in American culture, poop is not typically talked about, but us Asians, we apparently regularly talk about poop. So you're going to squeeze your butt muscles as you're trying not to poop, and you're going to now contract your lower abs, like you're sucking in your stomach. And then once you do that, you're going to tighten your neck muscles by squeezing your head back. Then you swallow. And then once you swallow, and you notice if you tuck your head back, you're holding your breath. And then you exhale slowly by starting to relax your neck first, your chest, and then your stomach and your butt muscles, right? There was a lot going on, so let's review. So the technique is you inhale and let your stomach come out. Step 1, I'll go through the steps. Step 2 is you start to inhale, keep inhaling until your chest is starting to go up. And then step 3, as it's happening, you're now going to squeeze your butt muscles. And then you're going to step forward, you're going to contract and suck in your stomach. Instead of letting it come out, you're going to contract your stomach. And once you do that, all this pressure, right? All this pressure, starting with your sacrum, like your butthole muscles, and then your lower part of your stomach. So there's this pressure building up, pumping blood all the way through to your organs, but you don't want that rush of blood to go into your head. So thus, you tuck your chin back and you swallow to hold the pressure here, so you don't have an excessive amount of pressure going to your head, so you get headaches. Right? So once you do that and you're holding your breath at this point, you hold your breath for about 2-3 seconds as you're doing this, and then as you exhale, you reverse. You relax your neck first, and then from down here, and then you relax your butthole muscles last. Right? So just to review one more time, you inhale, stomach is out, chest is now coming out. Now I'm going to squeeze my butt muscles, I'm going to suck my stomach in, I'm going to tuck my neck back, and now I'm not breathing anymore, I'm holding my breath, technically I'm talking, and you swallow, and then you relax your neck and your chest and your stomach as you exhale. Right? So that's the rhythm. Right? So you can practice that right now. Let's do it one more time. You're going to inhale, and this time I won't talk, so I'll actually do it with you. Right? So then I'll give you a side view, maybe you can see the hands. So I'm going to inhale, you'll see that this hand is coming out, and then the chest starts to go up. I'm going to squeeze my butt muscles, and suck in my stomach, tuck in my neck, swallow, breath hold for 2 seconds, and then relax the neck, relax the chest, and relax the stomach, and then relax your butthole muscles. Right? So that's the rhythm. So what's happening right now? When you're breathing with that technique, not only are you hyper-oxygenating your cells, you have this rhythm. Imagine like a rolling pin, right? You're rolling down and up with this breath. What you're doing is you're squeezing all of your organs, which is amazing for detoxification. Like you're mechanically squeezing some of those toxins that are, trust me, you all have toxins. We've tested people. We have yet to test a human that was not extremely toxic. So if you're watching this video, you might be thinking, am I toxic? Yes, you are. And so you want to squeeze those organs, right, and get some of those toxins out of the liver, especially, but gallbladder, all kinds of organs. And then you're doing that breath work and super oxygenating your organs rhythmically as you're rhythmically massaging your organs, right? So this breathing technique is tremendous. Like the Taoists, who were obsessed, again, with longevity, developed this thousands of years ago, and it continues to be practiced by Taoists today. Right? And so I'm a huge fan of anything, again, that's been around for like 5,000 plus years, tends to have some type of benefit, right? And so that is an amazing breathing technique for you to practice right now, and you can do that for a few minutes each day. And again, if there's any comments on, I don't see any, so on the spiritual aspect of it, then I will skip it. So now we're going to go on to the second part of this, is a simple awareness. Again, if you look at ancient cultures, they were much more in tune to their energy and themselves. Right? In Western culture right now, we actually are practiced at tuning out. Right? If you feel a little aches and pains, you take some Tylenol and use some Advil. You feel a little bit of fatigue, you drink some caffeine. Right? We have a pill for every sensation that you are feeling, and it tends to be a very symptom-suppressing Western medicine thing, and you keep suppressing until the symptoms are so big, now you get labeled with the illness, and then now you take more drugs, right? This is welcome to Western medicine. And so as you deepen your awareness to yourself, that is, to me, one of the foundation practices of being healthy. It's the foundation practice of being well, right? Forget just health, well, to be, to have a sound, fundamental, stable, aligned physical form, mental form, and spiritual form, right? And so it's about tuning into the self and having deep, 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 acute, subtle awareness. Right? Just think, if your cells, if you have such awareness to your cells, you have a few cells that says, hey, I'm a little toxic, I'm about to turn cancerous, and you could sense that, that would be amazing, right? Then you would just take actions to resolve it before it actually turns into cancer. Well, that practice actually does exist. We want to start off with what we're about to teach you right now. So, essentially, there's a thing, if you tune into your breath right now, again, breathing in and out of your nose, you'll notice more breath is going into one nostril than the other, right? In other words, one nostril is more open. There's more airflow in one nostril than the other, right? Typically throughout the day, you don't have even breath 50-50. It's going to be more so in one than the other. Now, if you're watching this, tune into your breath and comment. Let me know, can you actually feel which nostril is taking in more air, and then tell me which one, if it's left or right. Now, you can do that right now if you're watching this. And so I'll kind of continue to do this awareness practice as you're doing your own awareness. And so what's interestingly is if you have more breath going into one nostril, you may have heard we have a feminine and masculine side to all of us, right? There's a harmony of feminine and masculine energy. We can also use right brain, left brain, right? There's many, we can use logic and emotion. There's many dualistic ways of describing this, right? And so, and it ideally is existing in harmony, right? If you have too much masculine or too much logic or too much left brain and not enough of the other side, which would be feminine, intuitive, emotional stuff, you will definitely have symptoms of imbalances in your life, right? And so ideally in harmony. Here's what's fascinating. The nostril that is predominantly more open actually influences from an energy perspective what part of you that you're feeling, right? So if you are breathing, because the left brain controls the right side of your body, and reverse, everything's crisscross, right? So if you have more air coming in one nostril, you're feeding one side of the brain. More air coming in this nostril, you're feeding this side of the brain. And just think, throughout the day, do we have any awareness as to which nostril are we predominantly breathing from? We probably don't, right? If you do, that's incredible. You are doing really well in terms of self-awareness. But I'm assuming many of you watching this may not have that awareness. And so, now that you do, throughout the day, pay attention to, right? Do I have more air coming in one nostril versus the other? Now, here's the interesting thing. I was actually playing with this doing a cacao ceremony actually yesterday. And I was just tilting my head really subtly, a few degrees one way and then a few degrees the other way. And you can actually, as I was doing this, I was realizing that just by tilting my head a little bit, let's say to this way, the nostril that's higher up, I guess, think of it, opens up. And if I tilt this way, then this nostril opens up. And so I was, sort of able just playing with different head tilts and playing with the oxygen and the airflow through each nostril, right? You might be thinking, wow, what does that mean? Well, that level of awareness of how this, right, this tiny tilt is affecting our health, my health in that case, is pretty profound, right? Because we are taught it takes big things to solve big problems. We're not taught it's the subtle awareness, constant subtle awareness and being inward journey is where all the answers and all the alignment lies, right? Because that doesn't sell you stuff, right? And so people will tell you it's big and it's external so it can package it and sell to you. And so I'm here to tell you that the subtle awareness of that tilt and the subtle awareness of which air nostril or which nostril is more the air coming in, that is profound for you. And so once you have that awareness, I encourage you to have this awareness of harmonizing the two sides, right? Not always one side, not always the other side. Okay? And so that is number 2. So those are a little bit more sacred, ancient stuff. The last one is more science, right? If you look at research, and I'll give you context of why I'm recommending what I'm about to recommend. There's all these different things about different various symptoms of people who are getting coronavirus and COVID. And while each researcher in each article right, is saying we don't understand how it's affecting this system, how it's affecting this system, how it's affecting this system. If we read a bunch of them and you take a step back, it has to do with systemic inflammation and blood clotting factors, right? In other words, the more inflamed your system is, the more likelihood you're going to have various of these symptoms. It literally is that simple. And so then if that's the case, then as logic would say, how do I reduce systemic inflammation? Now, granted, there are all kinds. I have videos, like an hour workshop I've done on decreasing systemic inflammation from our immortal process, looking at very different root causes. If there's demand for that, I'll put that in the comments. It's a free workshop. You can watch it. But I want to keep it simple on this video, right? You guys like, quick, simple things. And so the quick, simple thing is take magnesium, right? Why did I pick magnesium out of so many things, right? 30 years of looking at physiology, chemically how the body works. How did I end up with magnesium? Well, data. 80% of Americans, if you're watching this and you live in America, there's an 80% chance you are severely deficient in magnesium. And I recently posted articles showing that you can go get blood work, like your annual blood work that looks at your magnesium and potassium stuff, and it shows it's normal. Well, it's wrong, right? Because the studies clearly show what's floating in your blood, the magnesium, does not equal what's the real magnesium amount that's inside your cells, right? That's like saying, hey, I don't have allergies in my house, so there must be no pollen outside. Well, it's a whole different compartment, right? We can't test the air inside your house and from that data assume what's happening outside of your house, right? And what I just said to you was an interesting thing. I'm going to do a whole video. There's no such thing as allergies. That's an entire false frame of reality. And if that resonates with you, or if you're like, what the hell are you talking about? Again, make a comment, and I'll make a separate video about allergies, right? And so back to magnesium. So most people are deficient in magnesium. You can literally Google magnesium and inflammation, and you'll clearly see multiple studies showing that the more deficient you are at magnesium, the higher your inflammatory status. Another reason why I'm recommending magnesium is you need magnesium to use vitamin D properly, right? So there's all this, you might have seen, at least on my Facebook wall, I see all kinds of stuff, people posting how vitamin D has been shown to minimize the severity of reaction to the virus, right? Of course, because vitamin D is essentially a necessary thing for your immune system. However, people are not talking about, you can take all the vitamin D you want, you can go outside and get vitamin D from the sun, but if you're deficient in magnesium, your body cannot use that vitamin D, right? So that's why I came up with vitamin D. Super simple. Now, there are many forms of magnesium. And most people, if you go to the health food store and you buy magnesium oxide, that's a laxative. It's why some people get upset stomach by taking that, because it's a laxative. So there are many forms of magnesium, right? And so there are certain forms that will be better at getting into your brain. This is very important because we're starting to find that brain inflammation and brain damaging effects from the virus. So you're going to want to take a specific form of magnesium called magnesium threonate that is amazing at getting the magnesium into your brain. And there's other chelated, like magnesium malate, magnesium citrate. There's other forms of magnesium that's elemental, that's bonded, like it's magnesium attaches something else that gets it into your cells better, basically, right? So those are better forms of magnesium. And what I'll do is I'll make a video on how to get the better forms of magnesium from a medical portal that I have. The reason I recommend using the medical portal is you are assured of the quality of the supplements, right? Because in case you didn't realize, I've made a few videos about this and talked about this, is because anyone can post something and sell online, either on eBay or Amazon or a store. I these days only recommend supplements through a medical portal because it's like fact checked essentially, right? Like they only get it directly from the manufacturer. They won't have a third party seller potentially selling fake supplements, right? So I'll make a video on that. It's super easy, right? So those are the three things that I recommend doing, right? Just to review, the first was the breathing technique to detox your organs and massage and oxygenate your insides. Again, that one you can do 3 to 5 minutes a day. Ideally, once a day. You could do more, right? Ideally, once a day. Start with once a day, right? Little atomic habits, do tiny, and then you can build up. You can do it for 20, 30 minutes if you wanted to, but start with like 3 minutes, work your way up to 5. The second was basically the awareness of where your breath is coming from, your nose. That alone, and having that harmony of, we'll say 50% one, 50% the other, average throughout the day. that in itself energetically harmonizes your masculine and feminine energy. But the meta of it is that hyper awareness, right? That in-tuned awareness of just a few tilt degrees can actually change your breathing and thus your energy. That is profound. That will give you more clarity, more awareness in all aspects of your life, in your relationship, in your food, in your energy, in your contribution, also known as work. I call it contribution, right? And so the last one is just magnesium, right? Follow the video that I'll make. I'll post the link on it, and go buy some magnesium. This is profound. If you do this, and as you do this deepening practice into the self and self-love and self-care, again, prior to 2020, this was almost like a luxury. At this point, it can be life-saving. I want to really strongly reiterate that. Not just life-saving, but body protecting, right? Because if you have heightened amounts of inflammation, you're not taking care of yourself because you're focused on outward external things, then you may get the virus and have actually damage to your system, right? And now it will take much more effort to resolve that damage. And this, unfortunately, is the current American way. Put off and suppress until it's big and then try to fix it. Let's all practice prevention. Let's all practice getting ahead of things. Let's all practice, in fact, getting ahead of things and preventing it through a practice that actually has profound impact on all areas of life. That is the key, right? To me, that is the key. It's taking one practice with one intent, and in fact, making the side effect of that practice and that intent even more profound than the intent. Right? I'll repeat that. That's a big one. So you want to set a goal and practice it in a way that's prevention, but more importantly, you make the side effect of this practice even bigger and more valuable than the goal and the practice in itself. In fact, that's what we actually just talked about, right? And so if none of that makes sense, comment, I'll explain. But I like to deliver some of these things in multiple layers of consciousness, and you will all hear at the level of consciousness that you're practicing right now, right? And so take action, right? None of this knowledge is, people say knowledge is power. Knowledge isn't power. Knowledge without action actually can lead to regret. It can lead to guilt, right? Because I should, like the should start kicking in, and that should energy is way more unhealthy than the virus, right? And so put this into action. Now, you don't have to do all three. You could do one of the three. You could do half of the three somehow, right? Pick a tiny action and act on it and start from there.